Hello everyone, subscribe to my channel to not miss new trending manhwa.
Isabel, a maid, is questioned about why she pushes herself so relentlessly. She faces a group of other maids who seem to be observing her critically. Her efforts were for Count Grey's masquerade, a task she'd been toiling on through the nights for a week. Isabel simply states she works hard just because she is alive. Turning away, she walks past the other servants. The maids whisper maliciously about her origins, remarking she's from the slums and looks filthy despite washing. Among the staff, Isabel was particularly low-born and endured constant bullying, earning the nickname the Dirty One from the streets. Such mistreatment had become so familiar that it no longer provoked her anger, as a menacing hand points towards her. Consequently, she simply toiled tirelessly, aware she would be the first dismissed if any pretext arose. Her dedication wasn't an attempt to improve her station in life. She possessed nothing she felt a need to safeguard or call her own. Simply because she was living, Isabel endeavored to improve her efforts. Eventually, this persistent hard work began to yield results. Her abilities were acknowledged, leading to her appointment as Lady Diana Grey's exclusive personal maid. Yet, even in this elevated position, existence didn't abruptly transform into something extraordinary for her. It remained a lengthy, wearisome, and seemingly pointless journey. This new role still left her feeling isolated, her life stretching out before her without clear purpose. Then, during an otherwise unremarkable day, a profound change occurred when she brought Margarita into the world. The newborn, Margarita, gazed with wide, innocent green eyes. Looking at her child, Isabel's own expression shifted, reflecting a newfound wonder. Cradling Margarita, who could softly, Isabel sat bathed in a gentle light. The tiny baby, Margarita, cried out, her small hands balled into fist. Tears welled in Margarita's bright green eyes as she continued to weep. Overwhelmed, Isabel to shed a tear, her own green eyes reflecting her daughter's profound effect on her. Isabel cradled her crying child gently, a single tear still visible on Margarita's cheek. She later recalled, slumped in exhaustion and emotion. It was the moment color began to bleed into my once gray life. Tenderly, Isabel's larger hand clasped Margarita's miniature one, a silent, powerful connection forming. After that, Isabel remembered of her resolve. I lowered myself even more than before. Depicted by her deep, subservient curtsy, she cherished precious, sunlit memories of guiding a young Margarita by the hand through a vibrant, green world. I thought that if I stayed quiet and knew my place, just as I always had, Isabel reflected, standing with other maids, I could live peacefully with my daughter. This deep desire for peace fueled radiant moments of pure joy, like sharing a loving, heartfelt embrace with young Margarita outdoors. But despite all that effort, I ended up, Isabel lamented, her memories shattering like glass amidst bloodstains. She continued her tragic recollection. I had to die in the most unjust way, leaving my daughter behind, as images of Margarita flashed. Suddenly, a harsh grip seized her blonde hair with brutal force. Accusations of murder rained down as she was violently pulled. No, that's not true, Isabel cried, but a voice commanded, drag her to the square. As a whip appeared, on the ground, surrounded by a hostile crowd, she desperately proclaimed, I didn't kill anyone. Yet they branded her the killer of Countess Grey. A man menacingly raised a whip, while Isabel begged, nitrogen monoxide, please, Her eyes, wide with terror, looked up at her impending doom. A close-up captured the sheer horror in Isabel's green eye as the blow was about to land. In a different scene, a red-haired young woman with striking green eyes, likely Margarita, reacted with shock, her own name, Rita, echoing. Rita awakens with a start, finding herself unexpectedly lying in a bed. She jolts upright, her eyes wide with disbelief as she questions being on a bed. A vivid memory surfaces of being branded the Countess's murderer, and the certainty of being whipped in the square. Utterly bewildered, she sits there, pondering how she could possibly still be alive. Her bright green eyes reflect the profound shock and confusion consuming her. Examining her own hands, she murmurs about them, and then wonders why they appear so clean. The pristine condition of her hands makes her feel as if they don't even belong to her. Throwing back the bed covers, she exclaims in surprise at her current state. Discovering a bandaged injury on her leg, she questions why her legs ache instead of her back, where the whipping was most severe. Her gaze sweeps across the unfamiliar room, an exclamation mark signifying her dawning realization or further confusion. She stumbles out of bed, a strong feeling that something is amiss washing over her. Approaching a reflective surface, she cautiously reaches out a hand. Gazing at her reflection, she realizes with a shock, this isn't me. A sudden noise makes her turn, her mind racing as she senses someone approaching the door. Her eye widens in panic, a bead of sweat forming as she desperately wonders what to do. With trepidation, Her hand moves towards the doorknob, her thoughts in turmoil about her next move. The door opens to reveal a man with glasses who remarks, "Oh, you're finally awake," prompting her silent, stunned what? In a swift, aggressive movement, she lunges towards the unfamiliar man, her hand aiming for his throat. His eyes widen in alarm and discomfort as her fingers make contact with his neck. She now has a firm grip around his throat, causing him to let out a strangled ugh. The man's face contorts in pain as her grip tightens, muffled sounds escaping him. Tears spring to his eyes from the pressure, his breath catching in his throat. Her own green eyes widen slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her determined face. He collapses to the floor, gasping and clutching his neck where she had held him. As her hand slowly pulls away, he looks up at her, blinking in residual discomfort. She stares down at him, a hint of confusion on her face, while he stammers, "Are you all right?" I mean, quickly, he explains, "I'm a physician. I only brought you in and treated you after finding you collapsed in the back alley." Her expression softens with remorse as she apologizes. "I'm so sorry. I was too on edge." Then, looking down at a pair of shoes, she questions, "A back alley? Why was the owner of this body there? By the way, happen to know why I was in that alley?" The physician, looking bewildered, replies, "What? You don't know? No. I really can't remember." The physician admitted, "Actually, I'm not sure of the details either. I can only explain your condition," then pointed to her bandaged thigh, explaining, "You had a gunshot wound on your thigh. It only grazed you, so you'll recover quickly," before ominously adding, "The problem is." He then revealed the grave news within a speech bubble. "There's a deadly poison flowing through your body." Her green eyes widened in disbelief as the physician continued, "If we can't neutralize it in time, the grim prognosis landed with crushing weight. You have only 1 year left to live," prompting her internal bewildered thought, "Did I go mad from the beating?" Standing with her head bowed, she internally processed the impossible situation. "I thought I died. Then woke up, looked in the mirror, and saw someone else." He further explained, "It's a poison I've never seen before. There's nitrogen monoxide, known antidote," as she internally acknowledged, "And now I'm poisoned by something terrifying," and he added, "Even if you see another doctor, I doubt they'll be able to help," leading to her bleak realization. "So I'm supposed to die again, in a year." Her hand gently pressed against the bandaged injury on her leg, testing the sensation. Seated on the edge of the bed, a sharp twinge from her leg made her grimace, confirming, "If pain is proof of reality, then this is real." A stark memory of her blonde hair being brutally pulled flashed, solidifying her understanding, "Which means my original self is already dead, and I've been given a second life in someone else's body." Another vivid flashback showed a masked man raising a whip, a brutal reminder of her previous demise. She acknowledged the absurdity of her circumstances, yet a sense of understanding settled within her. With newfound clarity, her green eyes reflected a singular, pressing objective. Her immediate priority became to locate her daughter, Margarita, fervently hoping for the child's safety. Even if Margarita wouldn't recognize her, she resolved to act as her guardian, needing to teach her survival skills within the years she had left. Alternatively, she considered finding someone else to protect Margarita, a shield until her daughter reached adulthood. Clasping her hands, she wondered about the current time, questioning if it was immediately after her original death, meaning Margarita would be unaware. Turning to the physician, she inquired if it was December of the year 800, then hesitantly asked if it wasn't perhaps 810. A wave of disbelief washed over her as she urgently asked him to repeat the year. The physician confirmed it was indeed the year 810 of the Macrid imperial calendar, specifically February. Her eyes widened in profound shock, the revelation casting a dark shadow over her face as the implications of a decade, having passed, sank in. She sat hunched over, grappling with the thought, 10 years and 2 months have passed since I died. Her hand rested on her bandaged leg as she recalled, Rita was 10 years old. A vision of a smiling young woman, Margarita, appeared as she calculated, then she's 20 now. The thought of Margarita enduring 10 years alone, in a world that's harsh even for adults, filled her with dread. Standing abruptly, she asked the physician, "Doctor, is there a newspaper?" To which he nervously replied, "Oh, of course. Over there on the table," while she thought, "I need any information I can get." She moved towards the table laden with newspapers, her resolve clear. "I have to find her, no matter what." Picking up a newspaper, her focus narrowed on finding my daughter, Margarita. Her green eye, filled with fierce determination, reflected her thoughts of my precious, my one and only. The physician, noticing her search, inquired, "Margarita, if you mean the Margarita in the newspaper, are you talking about Countess Grey?" An article headline caught her eye. "Countess Grey's mother, a former slave." Countess Grey's monthly fashion where money and alcohol go. There she is, Margarita. Confirming. That's my daughter. It's definitely Margarita, but she wondered, but how did Rita? A vivid memory resurfaced of her being violently dragged away, branded as Countess Grey's murderer. Holding the newspaper, her eyes, now in this new body, widened in disbelief at what she was reading. She internally questioned how Margarita could have become Countess Grey, as a vision of a sophisticated woman in a red gown flashed in her mind. Her thoughts turned to Count Jeremy Grey, the husband of Countess Diana Grey, whom she had served. She recalled him as a debauched man who kept many lovers, even after his marriage to Diana. The reason he hadn't divorced, despite his affairs, was because imperial law only permitted divorce in cases of bereavement, a bloody dagger illustrating the point. Considering his clear motive for murder, a scene of a body lying in a pool of blood came to her mind. Given his capability to orchestrate such a thing, she concluded Count Grey was likely the one who actually killed his wife. And surely Rita wouldn't be ignorant of that. A tender memory surfaced of her, as Isabel, asking a young Rita if they should read a book together after eating. Suddenly, a knock at the door startled her, making her wonder who could possibly be visiting at such an hour. A voice she'd never heard before called out, "Miss Isabel Jednick, are you there?" Accompanied by a knock. Watching Rita eat, Isabel felt a sense of unease for some reason. She quickly told her daughter, "Rita, just a moment," as she moved towards the door. Turning back to Rita, Isabel suddenly asked, "Want to play hide and seek?" Adding, "Yes. It's been so long. You have to hide really well until I find you. Remember, Rita?" Rita looked up at her mother, hesitating with a soft HMM. As Isabel announced, "Then I'll start counting to 10 now, so hurry and hide." Rita turned to find a spot. A harsh voice from outside abruptly commanded, "Open this door, Isabel Jednick." While the pounding on the door continued, Isabel began to count 1, 2. Young Rita scrambled towards a hiding place as her mother's count reached 5, 6. Reaching 10, Isabel turned from the door to see 3 men already inside the room. Trembling, Isabel demanded, "Who are you to barge in without permission?" One of the intruders roughly seized her arm, making her exclaim "Ugh," as he identified her. "Isabel Jednick." While restraining her, the man announced, "I'm arresting you on suspicion of murdering Countess Grey," to which she cried, "I'm innocent. I have nothing to do with the Countess's death." As he began to speak of evidence, a view from inside the room showed a wardrobe slightly ajar, with Isabel's voice from the past asking, "Is something wrong?" Young Rita was revealed, crouching and peeking through the narrow opening of the wardrobe door. Isabel reflected, that was probably the last moment Rita saw me, as Rita's eye was shown watching. She recalled, immediately after, in the middle of the public square, I was flogged without evidence, witnesses, or even an interrogation demanding I confess. And that the reason was simple. The sole justification was that Count Grey had pointed to me as the culprit, accompanied by an image of a whip striking down. A hand then viciously grabbed her blonde hair as a voice commanded, "Stop fighting it and just die." Count Grey, holding her by the hair, coldly informed her, "This will only end when you're dead. You were just unlucky." Count Grey turned his back and walked away as Isabel collapsed to the ground, the whip still in his hand. Realizing her fate was sealed, Isabel, clinging to Count Grey's leg, weakly addressed him, "Sir." With a surge of desperate energy, she then yelled, "Sir Knight, you're going to give me the money as promised, right? You said you'd give me a lot of money if I did what you asked." Count Grey looked back, his face contorted in anger and surprise as he retorted, what? You crazy?" As she tried to insist he keep his promise, he violently silenced her, blood splattering amidst her cry of "Ach," and his command, "Shut your mouth." Isabel recalled, "I shouted, loud enough to plant suspicion in the minds of the crowd, so that even if I died, the child I left behind wouldn't be disgraced." Lying bloodied on the ground, her last thoughts were of Rita. Her life fading, she whispered her daughter's full name, Margarita. A poignant memory of sharing a meal with young Rita surfaced, along with the regretful thought, "If I'd known this would happen, I would have made more stew. If I'd known." Back in the present, holding the newspaper, she mused that the Countess Diana Grey incident must have been on the front page. As an image of the late Countess appeared, she recalled teaching Rita to read back then, concluding her daughter must have read the news about her. A sinister portrait of a woman resembling Rita, holding a severed head and a dagger, appeared with the question, "Are you trying to get revenge on Count Grey?" Now dressed and carrying a suitcase, she told the physician, "I'm greatly indebted to you, doctor." As he inquired, "Where are you planning to go?" Holding up a newspaper clipping, she pointed out that the Count Grey family's townhouse was hiring temporary maids, making the doctor realize, so the Grey estate in the capital is looking for maids. So that's why she was asking about the Countess. She then turned to him, asking directly, "But, doctor, why did you save me?" He explained, "Well, you look to be around the same age as my younger sister who's in another region," adding it was obvious she'd die if left alone, and as a doctor, he had to help, even if she seemed suspicious. Expressing her gratitude, "Thank you, truly," she received his well wishes then. "I wish you a safe journey." Waving goodbye, the doctor called out, "Don't forget to take the painkillers I gave you," while a small chibi version of him added, "Take care of yourself." A disembodied voice remarked, "Look at all the guards, it's because of that thief." Two guards stood near a train as another voice mentioned, "They say he broke into the Duke Mirabel's estate last night, right?" One woman remarks that the thief apparently tried to steal confidential documents, while another expresses fear he might sneak into her house, preventing her from sleeping. Isabel, observing the guards, notes the tense atmosphere and feels relieved she concealed her hair. Adjusting her hat, she internally states that, anyway, there's only one thing she has to do. Her hand tightens on her suitcase handle, a newspaper clipping visible. As she resolves to go to the gray estate, she tells herself to calm down, acknowledging it's not beneficial to attract attention. A close-up focuses on her determined green eye, glinting with resolve. Nearby, guards halt a different woman, requesting her cooperation, particularly due to their ongoing investigation. The guards inform the detained woman that they apprehended someone with a similar height and hair color to the body Isabel now inhabits. Isabel, overhearing gossip about the audacity of breaking into the Duke's estate, concludes the checkpoint aims to find the intruder from Duke Mirabel's residence. She considers that the probability of this body being the culprit is alarmingly high, thinking the doctor who helped her must be panicking and that changing clothes was a good decision. Standing before the train schedule, Isabel mused that they would obviously check before boarding, so she had to lose them by then. She observed that the southbound and capital-bound trains departed in opposite directions, plotting to feign taking the southbound to mislead the guards, before switching to the capital-bound one. Waiting near the timetable, her gaze fixed on the large station clock, she thought, just a little more, as the minute hand advanced. On the platform, one guard remarked, "Damn, another dead end," prompting Isabel to seize her opportunity, thinking, now. At the ticket counter, she requested, "One ticket for the southbound train, please." While the vendor commented, there's only 1 minute until departure." A nearby guard turned his head, his attention seemingly caught by her. With her face partially concealed by her hat, Isabel firmly stated, "That doesn't matter." The guard's eyes widened in alarm as he spotted her hair, exclaiming, red hair." Tossing her hat aside dramatically, revealing her vibrant red hair, she yelled, "That train. A ticket for it," quickly, desperately hoping her diversion would work. She continued to demand, "That ticket, please," her hat airborne and red hair flowing, fully committed to the ruse. As guards yelled stop right there, she urged her legs, "Faster, my legs, please," while sprinting across the station floor. With a hand reaching out to grab her, she thought desperately, "I must not get caught like this." A guard's hand nearly seized her flowing red hair as she internally cried, "It can't end." Exclaiming nitrogen monoxide way, she vaulted over a luggage cart, her suitcase clutched tightly. A determined glint shone in her green eyes, a subtle smirk playing on her lips. Her heeled shoe landed firmly before she kicked off again, propelling herself forward. In a swift motion, she swung her suitcase, tripping one of the pursuing guards. The suitcase went flying as she continued her escape, a guard exclaiming UGH behind her. Her thrown luggage struck another guard squarely in the face, making him shout, "I can't see ahead. Damn it." While the train began to depart, a guard yelled in frustration, "The suspect, we lost the suspect." She got on the train. "Stop it." A guard exclaims in frustration that the train is already departing, and they can't halt it. Another guard shouts orders to catch up and board the train by force if necessary. Isabel, meanwhile, calmly walks with her suitcase towards a different area, having successfully created a diversion. Her discarded hat lies on the station floor as she makes her way to the actual capital-bound train. An announcer states the capital-bound train is departing soon, showing Isabel approaching it while a guard rushes towards the train she pretended to board. Safely inside the correct train carriage with her suitcase, she exhales in relief as the doors begin to close. Settled in her seat, she considers the fortunate timing of the two trains and muses about the physical capabilities of the body she now inhabits. Her green eyes reflect in the train window, a pensive expression on her face as she gazes outwards. As the train speeds along the tracks, the words 10 years materialize, emphasizing the time past. Her thoughtful gaze continues, her mind racing with the realization of how much must have changed and what her next step should be. She arrived in the capital and settled into an inn on 2nd Street. considering that if the owner of this body was a spy, there could be unknown dangers. But then she found something unexpected. Inside the luggage were dozens of forged identity cards and a gun, among which Belle Au was a name similar to her own, perhaps useful. Holding the firearm, she thought it was a good thing she hadn't opened the suitcase at the physician's house. A wave of revulsion washed over her as she held the gun, wondering why it terrified her so much despite it being her first time seeing one. It felt as if she had a bad memory associated with it, but she couldn't recall. Feeling overwhelmed and exhausted by everything that had happened, covering her eyes, she longed for just a little while to rest. The word mother echoing in the darkness. A vivid image of a young eye peeking through a crack appeared, along with a desperate cry of mother. Startled, she cried out, "Rita," as the memory jolted her. Her eyes widened in self-reproach, thinking she must have lost her mind. Clutching her chest, she berated herself, exclaiming that Rita was still trying to appease that old devil. And yet she was having such carefree thoughts. She thought of that quiet, gentle child, alone in that house, without a single ally, Rita. Overcome with emotion, she slumped to the floor, her red hair fanning out. Looking out the window of her own room, she whispered, "I'm sorry," as snow began to fall. Over a snowy cityscape, her apology echoed, "Mother is sorry." Meanwhile, on a street below, a cat watched as one man asked another, "Aren't you worried?" "Ian Kyung?" The man addressed as Ian Kyung inquired. "About what?" While his companion explained, "The informant we were waiting for has gone silent." His companion voiced his fears. Were they captured, killed, or tortured into revealing our information? Count Ian Lapellis, with a slight smile, replied, "Worrying won't change anything." Viscount Cern Victor, looking troubled, conceded, "He's right, but..." He then clutched his chest, an exclamation mark indicating his persistent unease. Count Ian Lapellis gestured for silence, prompting Viscount Cern Victor to internally question if pursuers were near. Though he felt reassured by the war hero beside him, Cern continued to believe Sir Ian Lapellis would surely handle the situation. While Ian let out a soft TSK, suddenly Ian grabbed Cern's arm, yelling, "Run," causing Cern to exclaim, "Huh?" As they bolted. From outside, voices shouted, "Catch her," and Cern, peering through a window, counted 6 pursuers. While Ian internally noted that 6 made it difficult to fight while protecting Cern, Ian instructed, "I'll lure them to the left. Cern, move to the right." To which Cern nervously agreed. "Why, yes." As they fled, Ian raised a pistol, a large exclamation mark emphasizing the sudden action. One of the pursuers shouted a gun, as Ian continued to sprint away. Another pursuer commanded, "Take down the one with the gun first." As they followed Ian and Cern into an alley, a scarred pursuer rounded a corner in the narrow passage, confidently declaring, "Got them." Before the scarred man could react, he was struck from behind, blood splattering as Cern watched in horror from further down the alley. The pursuer gasped as he was unexpectedly attacked from behind, blood spraying from the impact. Ian internally noted that 2 pursuers were still after him, but he'd already dealt with 2, advising Cern to hide and find an opening rather than engaging directly. He then scaled the brick wall, observing that the remaining 2 pursuers were tense. Looking down from his vantage point, Ian recognized this gave him the advantage over the 2 men below. In a blur of motion, Ian descended and struck one of the remaining pursuers from behind. The last pursuer cried out, "Senior," as his companion was taken down. Ian swiftly incapacitated the final pursuer, slamming him to the ground. A close-up showed Ian's intense, glowing eyes as he looked down at the subdued man. Pressing a gun to the man's head, Ian demanded, "Enough chatter. Where is Eileen Nova?" While the man weakly uttered, "Eileen." Ian specified he was looking for a woman with auburn hair and green eyes, whom the pursuer had been ordered to find, prompting the man to exclaim, "Gee, green eyes. Red hair, ah. She's still." Ian, holding a gun, coolly thanks the subdued man for the information. He internally processes that she hasn't been captured or killed, wondering if she's still on the run. A somber image of Eileen Nova, Isabel's current body lying down, appears. As Ian voices his hope that it's not betrayal, he reiterates that at least she wasn't captured or killed, perhaps still on the run. Whatever the case may be, Cern exclaims, "Sir Ian," as Ian, holding a bloody knife, internally pleads, "Just please, don't let it be betrayal. Eileen Nova." Standing over the incapacitated pursuers, Ian remarks to Cern that if even 2 were difficult, they'll need more training upon their return, prompting Cern's apology. As Ian walks away, holstering his gun, he cautions Cern not to act or speak rashly. Their progress is halted as 3 new assailants appear, one aiming a gun and yelling, "Stop right there. Take another step and I'll shoot." Ian, raising his hands in a seemingly compliant gesture, suggests, "Very well. Then let's talk peacefully. Lower your weapon," and before he can finish, One of the new men lunges from behind, pressing a knife to Ian's throat and shouting, "I refuse." Ian warns the assailant that harming Cern, the heir to Marquis Victor, will bring severe consequences. Cern watches, a gun still aimed at him, as Ian calmly addresses their captor. The man holding Ian prepares to strike with the knife, a menacing grin on his face. Ian's pistol lies discarded on the cobblestone street. With sudden force, Ian delivers a powerful kick, sending his captor reeling backward. Ian swiftly turns the tables, plunging his own knife into the attacker's head. Cern points ahead with a determined expression after the immediate danger has passed. Cern expresses concern for Ian's injured arm, but Ian brushes it off, noting Eileen Nova seems to have evaded capture. As Cern questions Eileen's whereabouts, Ian, clutching his bleeding arm, theorizes she fled and suggests they proceed to a backup meeting place. A tall building looms against the night sky as Ian declares their next destination is the capital. From an approaching carriage, a voice calls out, "Hey, Countess." As two women stand on the steps of a grand mansion, a blonde woman accuses the dark-haired Countess, "You laughed at me, didn't you?" The Countess, with a slight smile, denies it, stating, "Of course not, Madame Vat. I was simply giving advice out of concern, in case you embarrassed yourself." Leaning closer, the Countess adds, "While I have your attention, let me just add one more thing." As Madame Vat looks uneasy, the Countess then remarks, "Oh my, everyone's coming out just in time." As a crowd of elegantly dressed people descends a grand staircase, one guest asks Madame Vat, "Isn't author Khan far too famous to be attending your salon?" To which she nervously replies, "Well, I had to ask several times." The Countess interjects with a knowing smile, "So you met with him several times?" While Madame Vat stammers, "Well, to persuade him, of course I had to." With a subtle whisper, the Countess muses, "Author Khan and Madame Vat, you say? My goodness." Then states aloud, "Quite right." Turning away, the Countess says to a flustered Madame Vat, "I hope such a precious connection lasts a long time. Now then, if you'll excuse me." As the Countess departs, onlookers murmur, "Did Madame Vat have connections with artists?" And another adds, "That explains why Khan recently said he found a new muse." While Madame Vat trembles, a maid asks the Countess, "My lady, which game club shall I escort you to today?" As they stand by a carriage, and the Countess replies, "Let's head to Francois Night." The Countess, holding a cigar, mentions, "I heard a limited edition wine just came in." An ornate frame displays the name Margarita Grey. Text describes her as the third wife of Count Grey, known for her promiscuity, and a woman of unknown origin who managed to snag the position of wife by sheer luck, amidst a social gathering. Further text characterizes her as a mysterious and beautiful figure, praised by the elite of every field for her eloquence and intellect, as she stands with her maid. Two men in the background appear somewhat flustered or impressed. A portrait of Margarita, framed by roses and dragons, accompanies the text. All of these are the titles that now describe Margarita. Several men eagerly greet her, exclaiming, "Oh Margarita, it's an honor to meet you. And I've always wanted to see you in person." As men ask if she remembers them or note her choice of venue, Margarita internally wonders, "Now, who could it be?" Her striking green eyes open, looking forward with a composed expression. Margarita internally questioned who among the surrounding men was involved in her mother's death. Knowing the false accusation came from Count Grey, but suspecting an accomplice, she vowed that whoever had a hand in it in any form, she would kill them all. A memory of a desolate young Rita flashing. Margarita, in a symbolic gesture, raised a bloodied object as if striking down the shadowy figures of her enemies. The scene transitioned to a stark, bare tree with crows cawing, signaling a shift in location or time. Isabel, now in Eileen Nova's body and carrying her suitcase, approached a large estate, partially obscured by the branches of a tree. Arriving at the imposing gray townhouse in Capitol Hill, Isabel internally apologized. "Sorry I'm late, Rita." She walked resolutely towards the grand entrance, leaves scattering around her feet, her thoughts proclaiming, "Mommy's here now." Inside the opulent hallway, Isabel stood before a large door, knocking twice. A voice from within said, "Come in," and Isabel's green eyes showed a calm determination. Seated at a desk, Marcia Dona, the head maid, introduced herself and, confirming Isabel was there for the temporary maid interview, asked her to state her name, age, and experience. Isabel, using the name Belle Arla, stated she was 26 and had worked for 10 years. But her lady passed away suddenly, preventing her from getting a letter of recommendation. Marcia Dona, the head maid, paused her writing and, after noting the 10 years of experience, inquired if Belle knew the mixing ratio for wood floor polish. Belle confidently recited the polish recipe as a 1/4 cup of beeswax and 1/2 cup of turpentine, then correctly answered that polishing a fireplace frame involved rubbing graphite on metal parts and wiping it down. The head maid then questioned from which side drinks should be served, To which Belle replied, "From the rear right." Satisfied with the answers, Marcia Dona announced, "You're hired. Go out and find Mary right away." As she resumed writing, Isabel, bowing her head slightly, expressed her gratitude. "Thank you, ma'am." As she prepared to leave, suddenly another maid rushed in, exclaiming breathlessly, "Mrs. Dona, the madam has already returned," causing Isabel to startle. Isabel's green eyes widened in realization, her thoughts racing. "The madam, that means Rita." Marcia Dona instructed the arriving maid to gather everyone on the first floor, then directed Belle to follow Mary and change her clothes immediately, to which Belle affirmed, "Yes, ma'am." A bright, abstract visual represented Isabel's overwhelming internal thought, "Rita is coming." Maid's feet hurried across the floor as one commented, "The madam's back early," and another wondered aloud, "I know, right? Was the event boring today?" Standing amongst the other staff, Isabel, now in her maid attire, mused internally, "The child who used to sleep so much is now out this late." A cheerful blonde maid with bright eyes turned towards Isabel, exclaiming with a welcoming smile, You must be new, right?" Introducing herself as Belle, the new hire, Isabel listened as the friendly maid, Ellie, announced they would be roommates since her room had the only available empty bed. As Isabel expressed she looked forward to working together, and Ellie began to say, "Me too." Also, later, the head maid's voice cut through, "You there? Quiet, the madam is coming," silencing the large group of assembled staff. Ellie, slightly startled, stood beside Isabel, who calmly acknowledged the order with an "Oh, yes." Leaning in, Ellie then quietly asked Isabel, "Is it all right if I invite a friend to the room later?" Isabel graciously replied, "Of course," while considering internally that getting close to long-term workers would make gathering information easier. Grand double doors at the end of the hall swung open with a flourish, light spilling into the grand foyer. Margarita Gray, dressed in a striking red and black gown, stood with regal composure as the assembled household staff bowed deeply, collectively greeting her, "Welcome home, madam." Isabel acknowledged that Rita was no longer a child in her arms, a fact the sharp sound of her heels drove home. Gazing upwards, Isabel, in her maid attire, lamented that 10 years had been far too long. Margarita's red-heeled shoes came to a halt directly in front of Isabel's simpler black ones, prompting Isabel's surprised huh. A black-gloved hand gently tilted Isabel's chin upwards as Margarita inquired, "A new face?" causing Isabel to react with a silent. Leaning in very close, Margarita, with a slight smile, greeted, "Hello there, new maid." Their faces inches apart. Isabel internally mused that she'd always thought of Rita as a child, wondering when she had grown up so much and noticing the thick powder under her eyes. Internally questioning, "Are you really the girl I knew, Rita?" Isabel then formally introduced herself. "Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Belle Arla." Margarita observed, "I see. You have beautiful eyes," then instructed, "Do your best." As she began to turn away, as Margarita walked past, followed by another maid, Isabel internally exclaimed, "The madam's eyes." A close-up captured Margarita's profile, a subtle, knowing smile playing on her lips as she departed. Margarita's lips curve into a subtle, almost imperceptible smile as she turns. She then addresses her staff, "Marcia, Charles, come with me. The rest of you dismissed." As she walks away with the senior members, the remaining household bowing and replying, "Yes, madam." Isabel gazes upwards, her green eyes filled with a pensive expression after Margarita has left. Later, in their shared room, Ellie and another maid, Hannah, sit on the bed, enthusiastically confirming something to Isabel with a resounding, "Yes, a lot." Ellie elaborates that ever since the madam arrived, every maid who attempted to flatter her was dismissed, trying to recall the exact number. Hannah exclaims 23, with wide, frightened eyes, adding, "I was so scared back then." As a shiver runs down her spine, Isabel, listening intently, remarks that Margarita didn't seem angry today, to which Ellie agrees. "Yeah." While Hannah notes it appears she completely replaced the staff after becoming a countess. Clapping her hands together with a bright smile, Ellie announces, "All right, now let me give you a proper introduction." Ellie introduces herself as Ellie Smith, 21 this year, and the younger, equally cheerful maid beside her is Hannah, 11 years old. Turning to Isabel, Ellie then inquires, "Belle, how old are you?" To which Isabel, with a gentle smile, responds, 26. Hannah exclaims that 26 means Belle is younger than her mom, then asks Ellie if her mom works far away, perhaps in the laundry room or kitchen. As Ellie strokes Hannah's hair, Belle internally notes that child maids usually work with their mothers, just as Ellie begins to say far off, before being cut off by someone calling Belle. Belle turns her head, a slightly concerned and questioning look on her face. A close-up shows Ellie's bright green eyes, one in profile and the other looking forward. Ellie lies back on the bed, smiling broadly, while a blood splatter effect appears with the stark text, "So she's dead." Later, Belle's hand reaches towards the door of their shared room. Ellie, sitting on her bed, confirms she tucked Hannah improperly, saying she saw her fall asleep like an angel, while Belle sits on her own bed in the room with 3 beds. Belle, looking thoughtful, asks Ellie why she's hiding Hannah's mother's death, reasoning that at 11, Hannah is old enough to understand. Ellie, with a sad smile, explains that she's told Hannah many times, but every time, Hannah forgets, leading Belle to utter a disbelieving, "No way." Ellie confirms it's true, stating that no matter how many times she tells her, Hannah asks again the next morning, "When is my mom coming?" As a dark, distressed image of Hannah appears. Ellie explained that Hannah's mother perished in a carriage accident, and tragically, Hannah witnessed the entire event. A somber depiction showed young Hannah clinging to her deceased mother's form. Ellie continued, stating that the child still couldn't accept her mother's passing, so she constantly tries to forget the trauma. Belle, with a concerned expression, then inquired when Ellie thought Hannah might finally come to terms with it. Ellie, reclining on the bed, mused that she didn't know, sharing that her own mother also passed away early from a long illness, and she still thinks of her when seeing wildflowers. She added that when thunder rumbles at night, she misses her mother's lullabies, reflecting that the death of someone precious is something one never truly wants to accept. So grief and longing remain forever. Belle internally pondered the idea of living with such a memory forever, her thoughts fixated on an image of a wardrobe. Then, Belle posed a hypothetical question, asking Ellie what she would do if her mother had died unjustly, perhaps killed by someone, and if she would seek revenge. Clenching her apron, Belle pressed further, asking if Ellie would pursue vengeance even if her mother wouldn't have wanted that. She elaborated, questioning if Ellie would still seek revenge even if her mother never wished for her to live a life consumed by hatred or bloodshed. As an image of a peacefully sleeping baby appeared, she continued, "Even if she wished for you to just live happily, even without her." As an image of a joyful child holding flowers appeared. Ellie, looking up thoughtfully, then stated, "Even then, I think I'd still take revenge." She then suggested, "Try thinking about it the other way, Belle. What if I were the parent, not the child, and my child died unfairly?" Dark, distorted images flashed of shadowy figures with glowing eyes, accusing murderer and demanding kill her. The disturbing vision continued with a figure covering their face amidst cries of "She deserves to die. And that's right." A bloodstain spread across the cobblestones near a pair of simple shoes. As the words "kill hers" echoed, Belle, her hands tightening on her apron, internally stammered, "I, and then I." Her fingers continued to clench the fabric of her apron as Ellie gently said, "You know." Ellie, with a kind expression, mused, "I don't know your past or circumstances, Belle, but are you worried that someone close to you might be consumed by revenge? Still, even if that revenge never happens, can it still be a reason to live?" Belle, her face shadowed, thought to herself, "I think those people are doing it because they just want to keep living too." Belle, with a thoughtful expression, asked aloud, "Is that so?" As to maids are depicted in the background of a bedroom. Seated on the edge of her bed, Belle internally questions, "For Rita, is revenge the meaning of life? Should I not stand in her way?" She then reflects, "But, Rita, the shadows beneath your eyes that even heavy makeup couldn't hide." As an image of Margarita sitting on a bed appears, the memory of Margarita's evident exhaustion keeps lingering in Mom's mind. Elsewhere, at 9 Kakenra Street in Capitol Hill, Cern asks Ian, "This address, are you sure it's correct?" To which Ian replies, "Yes." Cern observes, "But there's nothing here." While Ian wonders, could she have not reached the capital yet? And Cern concedes, that's possible. Ian internally muses that Eileen could have been captured or betrayed them. Yet Cern doesn't consider it, then asks, "So then, Cern, what should we do now?" Cern, looking startled and flustered, exclaims, "Huh?" Ian, with a slight smile, asks, Must I really say IT?" As Cern puts his hands to his head in exasperation, Ian states, "Of course, we can't neglect the training that Marquis Victor personally requested." While Cern ponders if, while waiting for news, they should finish the investigation they originally started, questioning whether it's in the capital or back at the Mirabelle Duchy. Cern, looking thoughtful, suggests there's no need to return, as there must be houses allied with the Crown Prince in the capital, prompting Ian to ask which house that might be. Frantically clutching his head, Cern exclaims, "Ugh, I know this. I definitely know this. Jay, just give me a little more time to think." Ian, his purple eyes glinting, reminds him, "Don't you remember? You even got an invitation." Suddenly remembering, Cern exclaims, "That's right, the Grey family," to which Ian simply replies, "Correct." Cern enthusiastically declares, "It's been decided. Next target. Let's go," and dashes off. while Ian internally notes he's running away, afraid of more questions. Touching a green pendant at his neck, Ian muses that once he became hostile with the Crown Prince, he figured they'd cross paths again. Holding the green pendant in his palm, he recalls, "The day I was dragged to the battlefield, I swore I'd survive and take revenge." While reading a newspaper, Ian thinks about his revenge on the Count Grey, the one who erased someone dear to me from this world. His hand clenches tightly around the pendant chain. Looking up towards a grand building, Ian vows, "I'll make sure your revenge is carried out." A young woman with bright blonde hair and golden eyes, dressed in a maid's uniform, offers a gentle smile while holding a glittering, dark object towards the viewer.